Lord Red Eagle, Ancient One, first and foremost among Reach men, heed the call of your people. Still we fight for freedom, still our blades are dark with blood. Turn your gaze upon us, and grant us your blessing anew. I renew the ancient covenant. When at last our lands are free, we shall return, your sword of victory in hand. Then arise, O Great One, from your honoured tomb, reclaim thy stolen throne. Rule over us, High Lord of the Reach, forevermore. If you ask most civilized folk, you'll be told that the Reachmen or the Forsworn in Skyrim are a stain on the land. They build their unsightly redoubts and litter the ground with severed goats' heads impaled on shoddy palisades. What's more, they're an unsavoury bunch of savages who are ghastly in appearance and violent brutes to outsiders. For in their eyes, the Reach belongs to their people, and in the words of Madanach, the leader of the Forsworn rebellion in the 201st year of the Fourth Era, they will cut a bloody hole in the Reach until they are free. The Reachmen have plagued these lands for a long time, and one of their heroes by the name Red Eagle dates back to the second millennium of the First Era, during the reign of the Elysian Empire. Hey guys, it's Drew here and welcome back to Fudge Muppet. In this video we're going to delve into the full story of Red Eagle, the legendary hero of the Reachmen. Now, if you came on our last adventure, in which we joined the prestigious Bard's College of Solitude, you'll know that after completing the scarce few quests available, we would have had plenty of free time on our hands. Well, one book kept in the college on the bookshelf in the main hall is titled The Legend of Red Eagle, and will set us off on an adventure to alleviate our boredom. The book tells of a child named Phaolin, which means Red Eagle in the tongue of the Reach. He was born in the sundered hills of Skyrim, and his birth was greeted by the screeching bird calls and the crimson blooms on the autumn hills. Thus began his legend, Reach child born under auspicious skies, his very name the colour of blood. 10 kings ruled the Reach in those days, and though men were free, the people were scattered and warred amongst themselves. The augurs foresaw the boy's destiny, a warrior without peer, first and foremost Lord of the Reach, chosen to unite all under his name. Phaolin grew in years and strength, and it seemed the prophecy would be fulfilled. The banner of the Red Eagle was raised along the cliffs of the Reach, and his people prospered. Then came Hestra, Empress of the South, riding to war. One by one the kings stood before her, one by one they fell aside, bending knees in imperial bargains or slaughtered on the battlefield. Her legions came at last to the sundered hills, and envoys were sent to bargain for their surrender. Phaolin refused to yield the freedom of his people, but the elders were afraid, cast him out, and accepted the imperial yoke. Thus was stolen by the foreign invaders his land, his people, his very name. So, as is often the case for the Forsworn and the Reachmen in general, they were bent until broken by external forces far more powerful than their own. Hestra was the current empress of the Elysian Empire, an empire built on the back of a slave rebellion. The empire grew to control large parts of modern-day Skyrim and Hammerfell, and Red Eagle was just another monarch to fall under their might. So why is Red Eagle so important? Why are we travelling all the way to Red Eagle Redoubt 3 eras later to rend his ancient blade from the hands of some forsworn Briarheart? Well, in the years that followed, Red Eagle became known as the untamed spirit of the Reach, unbowed, unbroken, stained by the blood of his foes. He gathered loyal Reachmen to himself, those who clung to the old ways, who yearned for freedom, and forged a new nation. Together they fell upon the occupiers and the traitors by night, disappearing into the cliffs and caves each morn, evading capture. It was not enough. For every Imperial patrol and garrison they wiped out, yet more seemed to march from the green south to replace them. One night, under a cloud-choked sky, the men of the Red Eagle warmed themselves over damp fires of smouldering moss. A huddled, shambling figure came to them cloaked in rags, face cowled. Though his men mocked and cast stones at the stranger, Phaolin sensed something and beckoned. The cowl was thrown back in the dim light, and she revealed herself to be one of the ancient and venerable Hagravens. She offered power for a price, and a pact was made. Thus was brokered to the witch, his heart, his will, his humanity. From that day forth, his was the spirit of vengeance, pitiless and beyond remorse. Red Eagle was the first mortal to undergo the transition we now know as becoming a Forsworn Briarheart. The unbreakable filial bond between the Reachmen and the Hagravens makes so much more sense given the story of this age-old hero. It's no wonder that when the book brings us to Red Eagle Redoubt, several Forsworn protect the artifact we seek. In their eyes, they are preserving relics from their origin story. The culture in which Hagravens are revered like matriarchs in every camp and hideout exists directly as a result of this Lord of the Sundered Hills, the king who would unite the 10 Reachman kings under his rule. Under Red Eagle, the rebels grew in strength and numbers, and none could stand against them. Phaolan's eyes burned coldly in those days, black opals reflecting a mind not entirely his own. 2 years passed and the foreigners were all but driven from the Reach. Such peace could not last, however, and a great host fell upon them, a swift army of invaders unlike any before. For a fortnight, Hestra's generals laid siege to Red Eagle's stronghold, till he himself came forth for battle, alone and robed in nothing but his righteous fury. 1,000 foreigners fell before his flaming sword, and the enemy was routed. Yet when night fell, so too did he. The warriors who came to him said Phaolan's eyes were clear again on that final night. He was taken to the place prepared for him, a tomb hidden deep within the rock. With his remaining strength, he presented his sword to his people, and swore an oath. Fight on, and when at last the Reach is free, his blade should be returned, that he might rise and lead them again. Thus was given for his people, his life, his dream, his sword. But when every debt is repaid in blood, these he shall reclaim once more. So our adventure has taken us to the resting place of Red Eagle's sword, and we may just have the opportunity to prevent an ancient murderous tyrant from returning to this world. The ancestor to all Briarhearts lies dormant somewhere beneath the soil. With this in mind, the importance of our success is undeniable, and we must reclaim Red Eagle's sword from the Forsworn. Aside from a few taproot hanging in nets and some sharpened spikes, Red Eagle's Redoubt is no trouble for any soldier worth their salt. As we ascend, the barbaric practices of the Forsworn become more abundant, with goats' heads decorating the walkways, offering a foul rotten smell that far outweighs any intimidating benefits. And we can even find mutilated animals, like a skeever torso emancipated from its limbs and its head. I wonder why the Reachmen are so prone to discrimination in Tamriel. I'm sure it's just plain old bigotry from the civilized folk. At the very peak of the ascent, we reach Sundered Towers, and judging by the name, this old structure seems to be built on the very same hills that the legendary Reachman hero Red Eagle was born. Looking out over the expanses of the Reach, a Briarheart guards Red Eagle's treasures. Firstly, Red Eagle's Fury, the hero's sword, and secondly, Red Eagle's Right, a tome resting atop an altar nearby which will guide us to Red Eagle's tomb. The Right reads, "Having bathed the blade in human blood, presented at Rebel's cairn, together with your sacrifice, and in tone, Lord Red Eagle, Ancient One, first and foremost among Reachmen, heed the call of your people. Still we fight for freedom, still our blades are dark with blood. Turn your gaze upon us, and grant us your blessing anew. I renew the ancient covenant. When at last our lands are free, we shall return, your sword of victory in hand. Then arise, O Great One, from your honoured tomb. Reclaim thy stolen throne, rule over us, High Lord of the Reach forevermore." I guess it's time to wake this slumbering warlord prematurely. No doubt when he discovers his lands are not free, he will be furious. But I'd wager Red Eagle wasn't going to be the benevolent or magnanimous type, whatever the circumstances of his resurrection happen to be. Our next stop is Rebel's Cairn, a relatively inconspicuous cave just southeast of the towers on the very same Sundered Hills. Inside we can see a fallen adventurer, likely lured to his doom by the book in his hands. Little did he know the Eagle's resting place was hidden behind lock and key. At the centre of the room we can see the pedestal with the peculiar keyhole. This is no regular lock, and it will require us to thrust Red Eagle's Fury into the slot. Doing so will activate a hidden mechanism, raising a stone door nestled subtly along the natural cave wall. Through the winding passageway we enter a large antechamber, with architecture similar to most Nordic crypts. Fires and candles burn here, which could suggest that the Forsworn visit his tomb to pay their respects often. Or perhaps it's just Bethesda's method of allowing you to see where you're going, but enough of the immersion breaking. Walking too close to the coffin will rouse Red Eagle from his multi-era slumber, and surprise, surprise, he's not up for a conversation when he sees an armed traveller in his home. Without so much as a word, excluding his dragon shouts, the battle begins, and some long-dormant sorcery raises nearby skeletons from the dead. After dealing with those distractions and besting the mighty Reachman hero in one-on-one combat, Red Eagle's legend finally comes to an end. It took thousands of years, but it seems this Forsworn king will never unite the Reach under his reign. From his body we can loot the honed ancient Nord Greatsword of Burning, which deals a nifty 10 points of lingering fire damage. I'm not exactly sure how a sword that has been left untouched since the second millennium of the First Era can be honed, unless some irreverent Forsworn member has been in here grinding Red Eagle's weapon against a whetstone. But nevertheless, it's honed, and it's not a bad weapon. The true prize from our quest awaits us outside the tomb in the weapon slot. What was called Red Eagle's Fury is now called Red Eagle's Bane, and it is no longer a quest item. This one is more powerful, and will set undead on fire and cause them to flee. Pulling the sword from the slot will reseal Red Eagle's tomb, only this time he is truly at rest, as the prophecy of his return has been concluded. And there you have it, guys. I hope you enjoyed the full story of Red Eagle, the ancient hero of the Reachmen and the Forsworn. If you did, give the video a like and maybe hit subscribe if you're only just stumbling upon these videos. Any support is immensely appreciated. Thanks so much for watching, guys. I've been Drew, and I will see you in the next one.